Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grip Locked Foundation Disc Golf's weekly podcast. I'm Hunter, and joined, as always, by Trevor. So today we don't have tournament news, really.
No.
Players are currently kind of in this quarantine state. They have to get ready to go to Vermont, so players can either choose to take a COVID test and quarantine for 7 days where they are, and then drive up to Vermont, which is what a lot of players are doing, or you can go spend 14 days in Vermont in like a makeshift bubble. Right. Which some players are choosing to do. So we don't really have a tournament to talk about, but there was a few different things that have started to arise that I think we can talk about for an hour, surely. Surely. Yeah. Maybe longer. We might have to cut ourselves back. The first one that's kind of happened it's been happening all year. Okay, but there's this one final one that made me go, we're talking about this on the podcast. And that was the Cloudbreaker 2 drop.
Right.
So this has been going on all year. Disc companies and companies like us have been making exclusive discs or Tour Series discs, dropping them. They sell out, and then people are very upset.
Right.
More or less. But one thing that I'm struggling with is, why are people getting so upset over these disc drops? Like, what about these disc drops? The Get Freakies, the Cloudbreaker 2s. I mean, any exclusive disc drop. Why are people getting so upset over this?
Right. I mean, it's a little bit tough for me to commentate. I mean, I've been on the business end of a few. I haven't tried to purchase any. I mean, I know with our drops, we've had very few where there wasn't enough time for you to at least, like, if you were ready and waiting, then you'd be able to get one. I mean, we with maybe one exception being the first Dark Claw Wasp drop. I think that was pretty tough. There might have been some people who literally just weren't fast enough, I guess. But I mean, the bottom line is nobody's entitled. You know, if we sell 4,000 discs in a few minutes, you know, nobody's entitled to any of those discs. I mean, there's nothing we can do about it, you know? So, like, you know, people think just because I have the money and I was willing to spend it, then therefore I should be entitled to get one of those discs. Well, why are you more entitled than the other person who had the money and was willing to spend it? I mean, I think your odds are very high if you are on the site, ready to go. You know when the drop is because we posted when the drop's going to be. We post about it for weeks sometimes.
Yeah.
And I'm just speaking about how we've done it. And then, you know, you get ready and you click, and that you check out. Like, that's how these drops are. They're competitive. And I think people are probably catching on to that. But, like, you know, I don't know. There's no perfect system to do this so that everybody's happy.
Well, so I've tried to get Freakies pretty much every drop, and I have not been successful.
Well, Get Freakies, that's the one that I think has been, like, the most troublesome.
Yeah, so the issue with Get Freakies was originally... Well, I think the first Get Freakies didn't sell out, if I remember correctly. The orange ones. There was the black ones first, that they were only at Memorial. Then the orange ones, there wasn't that much hype, which we're going to talk about some of the factors I think that go into making these discs sell out. But I've tried getting to Get Freakies. Discraft site crashing, big issue. But they resolved that. Still couldn't get one.
Yeah.
The issue, I think, was just the sheer volume and the amount of people that were, like, putting one other item in their cart so that they could go ahead and fill out their address information and make all of that, like, one click smoother, or they're using Apple Pay or Shopify Pay or whatever. So, I mean, you just being on a site, you're not guaranteed to get one.
We're not guaranteed. I'm just saying you're increasing your odds.
You have a chance.
Yeah,
I know people that have them, but
I don't know. I mean, it's tough to know. Like, I know the Get Freaky drop is, like, the example right now of, like, the one that, like, is legit, just hard to get, even if you're ready for it. But I don't know, like, what is the statistic for how many people wanted them versus how many people got them. Who knows?
Well, I think that's one thing that I think is making a lot of these drops controversial is disc golf has grown so much.
Yeah.
And online shopping has grown so much because of COVID on both fronts.
Yeah.
To the disc golf growing and the online shopping growing, that there's so many. I think that disc golf companies were making these like the demand would have been last year.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Changed.
Whereas the demand has drastically gone up. So Get Freakies, I know the numbers. I'm not going to share the numbers, obviously, but I know the numbers, and I know more and more were made, and then also less and less were allowed to be purchased. So purchasing limits were put on them. Discmania, I believe, has always used purchasing limits, or at least I believe they did this time, but they also, Discmania, they have purchasing limits on the retailers. So like when we did sell Discmania and they did like the Sky God drop, or the Razor Claw drop, you were only allowed X amount. I think it might have only been like 50. So no matter who you were as a retailer, Infinite might get like Infinite, OTBs, the big guys might get some type of special treatment, but across the board, you're only allowed X amount. So going to like when we carry Discmania or now like a Marshall Street or whatever, there's only going to be like 100 on the site.
Yeah.
So the Cloudbreaker 2 was kind of confusing to me because people got super upset over not getting them, and they were upset at Discmania. But a lot of the like during the outrage I saw, people responded to the comments like, you realize that this site's not sold out, and this site's not sold out, and this site's not sold out. Like, you basically, like, to me, it seems like the Get Freaky zones and Discraft this year have changed how people kind of view the, like, hype drop market, if that makes sense.
I mean, the hype, a lot of the hype is being generated because of the resale market.
Yes.
The resale market right now in disc golf, and a lot of it has to do with companies are, like you said, kind of catching up with the new demand. And now at the same time, there's a balance there because you want to be able to make enough for a drop that everybody can get one, but at the same time, having the exclusivity is what builds the hype for the next drop.
Yeah.
So like, I think that's part of why the Get Freakies have been continually been popular, because they're so hard to get your hands on that people are tuning in for each drop when they come. Yeah. But obviously, yeah, the resale market is super inflated right now. Like, we've had discs that we've dropped that can flip, the next day for triple value.
Yeah.
And that's going to die down when companies are running back at full speed again. And it's easier for them to meet demand. But I mean, the resale market, what do you think about the resale market? Because I think it's good for the sport. It's almost like a whole nother like subculture to the sport of disc golf, right?
Yeah.
We've always had the collecting side and the resale side to an extent, but the exclusive drop, that's kind of new. Because we've always had collectible discs, but it was almost like ones you'd have to get at events and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this whole, like, now we're doing like, okay, so they're going to drop a custom stamp and then that stamp is rare. It's almost like a sneaker type thing.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. What do you think about that?
So I think the resale market's interesting for a few different things, right? The first thing is the people that complain about it are the same people that are fueling it.
Right.
Being the buyers of the resale market. If no one was out there willing to pay $500 some for a Get Freaky wouldn't be selling for $500 some. And the moment Get Freakies aren't selling for hundreds of dollars days after they come in, they're not selling out. The Cloudbreaker, sure, some people want for throwers because it's a disc, but at the same time, the Cloudbreaker's been out. They didn't update the mold. Mm-hmm. It's just that it's in this swirly plastic, just like the Zone is a Zone.
Yeah.
They didn't update the mold. It's just in this Crystal Flex plastic with a Brody stamp on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look back at the orange Get Freakies, the like initial thing, they didn't sell out for a while. It was either hours or days to sell out.
Yeah.
But the second those things got a resale market behind them, the second they had some value to them, that's when the website broke. That's when people really wanted them. And so that was kind of fueling all these drops. So it's an interesting thing from a business perspective. You want, like us, when we drop a Dark Claw or we drop whatever, we want the resale market to be there because that gives us security that we can now do another drop.
Yeah.
Because as soon as that resale market's there, everyone in their head is going, well, if I buy this foundation disc, when they drop it, I can sell it for X, Y, or Z. Whether or not that's right, I don't
know. It's the consumers that create it. So, like, it's not like now there's been, like, things have floated around about businesses trying to insert themselves in the resale market.
There's no room for that.
Which there's no room for that. Because then there can be complaints. But, like, when the consumers are creating it all and, like, it's just fans of disc golf that are kind of making the resale market exist, and, like, that's fine.
Yeah.
There's no harm in that. I think
to me, like, as a player, I did that. I did that on multiple things. I did it even last year as I owned Foundation. I was still buying stuff from Ledgestone and flipping it.
Right. And it's not like it's damaging anybody getting into the sport because you're always going to be able to buy stock molds at the normal prices.
Yeah.
You don't have to even go anywhere near the drops.
No.
Unless you're just looking to be more of a collector and resale guy. Some people want, our drops, we put them on sometimes exclusive plastics that people think would be great throwers too. So there are people in there, but I realize a lot of people just want to collect and resell and do whatnot. And the consumers, they control all of that, like what's trending as far as doing that kind of thing. So that's fine as long as the businesses are kind of just releasing the product and that's their part in it, and they're not diving back in or holding stock and then selling it. Like that's no good.
I did hear of some, I don't remember the name of the companies, but it was some smaller retailers that held onto cloud breakers and then were trying to sell them for $60 or whatever the next day.
As a company, like I think it's probably most responsible to stick the MSRP.
Yeah, it's ridiculous for you not to do that. Yeah. But as far as the like flippers go, I've never really had a problem with it because like name a collectible market where that doesn't exist.
Right.
Like baseball cards, heck, Beanie Babies.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Like you can flip anything.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so the idea that people get so upset because, well, I wanted one to put on my shelf and this guy bought one just to sell it. If you're willing to buy it to put it on your shelf from the guy that bought it to sell it, that guy's always going to buy it to sell it because he can always sell it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if people are actually that outraged over it, then the consumers need to just stop buying from these Facebook pages. Until that happens, then the market's going to be there. And I don't really have a problem with it. Like, I didn't get freaky, any of the drops. I don't want one bad enough to buy it from someone, so I'm not going to. If I did, I would. I wouldn't go pay $100 bucks. I'm never going to do that for a Frisbee.
Yeah.
But, there's people out there that would. And if I cared that much about having my collection, I would pay $125 or $150 or $200 for a Get Freaky because that is now what it's worth. They do that. Like, that is a universal thing across the board. It's, and one thing we've gotten a lot of flack or feedback or whatever you want to call it is protected carts.
Yeah.
Right? And I even saw people coming after Discmania over the same thing. Like, the idea that once you put a disc into your cart online, it should be protected.
For a certain amount of time.
Yes. First off, I mean, I don't know. I'm not into the sneaker brand or anything like that, but I've never heard of this before people started getting upset at us for not doing it.
I've used sites with protected carts before, but never during a drop.
Yeah.
It's always just been like, I'm trying to think
like day-to-day shopping.
I think movie tickets is my best example. A lot of times if you're buying reserved movie seats, it'll give you like 10 minutes. If you finish checking out, you're guaranteed those seats. And that makes sense.
Yeah.
But that's not, I mean, I've done that and I've never tried doing that during like a high demand movie where everybody's buying stuff at the same time. I don't know what it would do.
We've looked into it before, right?
Yeah.
And we've thought about it. We even said a little while ago we're going to do it. But then Discmania came out with a statement that made me research a little bit more and open my eyes to some stuff. Their statement was they also use Shopify, same thing we use, which is just like a e-commerce platform to build out your website, manage your inventory, all of that. But they don't support protected carts. So you have to get this third-party app.
Yeah.
So I found a third-party app I was ready to use for our next drop, whenever that is. But then Discmania made a good point that since Shopify doesn't inherently support it, these protected carts on a drop like this where there's a super high demand, the second you hit checkout and the item is now out of your cart because it's checking out, it would, in theory, appear back on the site.
Right.
So while you in the process of you checking out, your disc could still be sniped from you.
Yeah.
They came out with that theory. And that sounds legit. From what I've seen, it is legit. That's not the reason I didn't want to do protected carts, though.
Yeah.
The reason I didn't want to do it is a drop that's sold out in 4 minutes. Okay? That everyone's so upset. It sold out in 4 minutes. It's an outrage. Blah, blah, blah. You must have made 10 of them. No, there was, twice as many people as disc we made on the site, and people were buying 2 of them. But the drop that sells out in 4 minutes for us, and I can look at these numbers because it's for us. This is the same for Discmania, Discraft, Innova, Infinite, anyone that's doing a drop. It's the same across the board. If they did protected carts, right? That 4-minute drop would be sold out in like 30 seconds or less.
Right.
Because it would be, quote unquote, sold out the second all the discs are in people's carts.
Mm-hmm.
And then it creates a massive headache because now what's going to happen is all the discs sold out super fast. Everyone's now mad because, if you're not fast enough to check out once a disc is in your cart, then you're not going to be fast enough to get that disc in your cart to reserve it. But anyways, but once a disc is into the cart, then it's sold out on the site. But then there's going to be the people who, I put 5 in my cart, but I only want to buy 2.
Yeah.
I'm going to remove 3. Now they're re-released back. So now there's 3 more that just hit the site again. And then those are added to someone's cart. And then what if that guy's like, oh, 3, yeah. Okay, well, now that I have 5 minutes to think about it, I only want 2.
Yeah.
Now that one's back on the site. So this thing could create a cycle of sold out, not sold out, sold out, not sold out, sold out. And it's just going to be little hits of 1 or 2 discs here or there, just hitting the site. And it's just like everyone that, their payment declines there, whatever.
I'd worry about that crashing the site, to be honest, all that traffic.
It wouldn't crash a Shopify site. But it's still, though, like, that would be super frustrating for me as a consumer, because if I got on at 1 o'clock, the drop's at 1 o'clock, I didn't get it. I leave the site. And then my friend tells me 1:30 he got one.
Yeah.
And it's because, he just happened to get on the site at the right time because, you added to your cart and then you didn't check out your full cart. Then I added to my cart and my card got declined, and then someone added to their cart and this happened. And then next thing you know, it's 1:30 and there's 10 of them left.
It's just a lot more confusing.
Yeah. And it would be way more like, so the reason we were going to do it is because I had explained this multiple times to Paul and Brody and anyone else that asked me. I was like, this is a horrible idea. The people don't, I think, know what they're asking for. We should never do this. Like, this would create way more outrage, because imagine the outrage over a disc selling out in 5 seconds, because that's the actual, like, there's a chance of that. If a disc is selling out in a minute, there's a chance it's going to sell out in 5 seconds if it's protected cards.
Yeah.
Like, imagine that outrage. People would literally think we didn't even drop them, because they would be like, oh, it's 1 o'clock. Why isn't the disc on the site? It'd be like, well, it was there for a few seconds. So, like, the outrage and customer service emails I have to deal with, I'm like, people don't know what they're asking for here. It sounds all good in theory, but then, we put out this poll that asked people, do you want it? Whether or not that was a good idea, don't come asking me, because I was not for it. But this poll got put out onto our Discord channel, which if you're not on Discord, come on, it's so much fun. People are active on there literally all the time. But a poll got put out there and people voted they wanted it. So I was like, all right, we're going to do it on the next big drop. And then when people come complaining to me and crying to me, I'm going to respond with, you literally asked for this. You voted for it. This is what you got. It's not going to happen ever again, but here you go. Merry Christmas. I just don't think people have thought through the protected carts, because it just sounds good as a consumer, like, oh, I had it in my cart.
Yeah.
But the fact is, like, there might have been, until a disc is sold, it doesn't get removed from the site. So in theory, with 4,000 discs, there could have been 16,000 in the carts.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? 4,000 sold, so then 12,000 of them sold out before you get to checkout. I get where that's like, holy cow, like, that's horrible. But when you think of the alternative, it's not that bad. Because then, like, at least the race now has more steps, so you have a better chance at winning, versus the race has one button step. Boop.
Yeah. And
it's just whoever's got the fastest internet and is on there at the right time, you win.
Pretty much.
Plus, then, there's also been this issue this year that I don't remember last year of bots. Which, do you understand bots at all?
Yeah, I get what they're doing is programming. There's so many different types of bots, but I understand that you can program any kind of, like, you create a program, I guess, to basically buy for you at a speed faster than you could.
The speed of sound.
Well, yeah, just like instantly, I guess. We dealt with it during the Dark Claw loss. There was like one instance of it.
Yeah.
But that's what people are doing with bots, is just being faster than human, because they have a program that does it.
I just don't remember. Maybe it's just like it wasn't a known thing, or first off, I don't think it's as big of a problem as people think.
No, like I said, I've only dealt with them once, and it was not.
It was 80 of our, however many Dark Claws we dropped. 80 of them got bought up.
We just canceled them.
And we just canceled them. We found them, canceled them. They went back on the site, and they all got bought up.
Yeah.
But so I don't feel like it's as big of an issue. Like, people immediately think, oh, the disc sold out because all the bots took them.
No. Like,
I would be absolutely.
We're able to see, like, when orders are bought via a bot, we get that reported to us. Shopify tells us.
Yeah, it immediately starts flagging them as fraudulent.
Right, like, it's not like that's, going under the radar. Maybe people are that good, but it doesn't seem like it. And
if they're that good, they're probably not wasting their time on disc golf
exactly.
jobs.
So I don't think it's really a problem.
But, like, let's say it was. Do people really think that, like, Discraft or whatever, like, it's so easy to notice when you're shipping to the same address 100 times. Like, I really doubt that it's happening like so much that thousands of discs are going to 10 people, because like that's, I I refuse to think that's happening. But yeah, I mean, I think the aftermarket is one of the key things in these disc drops. It's a key thing that ticks people off. But I just feel like this year there's been so many disc drops.
It's become popular.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is about this year, because I mean, in the past we've had like Tour Series stuff and some custom stamp stuff, but I feel like there's just been more custom runs and stuff like that this year.
I think companies have just realized. I mean, there's been a new surge of like people into the sport, so that's something. But I think companies are just realizing how popular they can be, and it's kind of always been that way. I mean, even like it is true. I mean, in the past, disc drops were different in the past because it was almost always like a tour series type of thing. This new like idea of customized stamps that are just kind of custom for the sake of being custom, they don't have anything to do with the tour series or whatever. That's kind of new.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've kind of pioneered that, it's almost like a brand type thing instead of, just like putting a signature on a disc.
Mm-hmm.
But I think, companies like us have realized, people like this, they like having unique discs, which I always think, if you look back at disc golf, it makes sense because people love carrying discs in their bag that would have like tournament stamps and just unique stuff because they like to pull out a disc and people go, what is that? Like, where did you get that?
Yeah.
Like to have a little bit of a story behind it.
Like a statement piece.
Right. Like,
same thing as putting a leg lamp in your house.
Yeah. Like
maybe not the same thing. But.
Yeah, a little different. But maybe my thing was like always, in my bag, from way back, that's how it always was for me. I didn't just want a bunch of stock discs. Like I wanted the discs that had the cool stamps. So I think it's always been there. It's just like people are now realizing they're
just finding ways to capitalize on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I want to take this quick moment in between our two topics to thank our patrons. If you are a patron, I really appreciate you. We are very gracious of all your support. And if you're not, please check us out on patreon.com/Foundation Disc Golf. There's several different tiers from $5 a month up to $100 a month. That gets you anything from more content at the lowest tier to exclusive drops every single month. And everything in between. You even get to have your name be a different color on Discord. Which
very fancy.
Yeah, pretty fancy, and access to all kinds of different Discord benefits and channels. So if you haven't already checked it out, head over to patreon.com/Foundation Disc Golf and see if there's any tier that you'd be interested in supporting us. So we really appreciate everyone who has done that and all of you who are on the fence and might jump into doing that. Now, this next topic here, it's the rest of the show is pretty much going to be about the CBS Sports broadcast to us coming up, to you guys listening and watching. You've hopefully already watched it and experienced it. But to us, it's happening tonight. Actually, 3 hours from when we're shooting this.
It's a very big moment for the sport of disc golf.
And so leading up to this moment, Jomez has been, releasing some interviews here or there. And one thing that we've always talked about is we've talked about two things pretty consistently on this podcast. The payouts being pretty poor at PDJ events, and the attitude of top players not caring about winning.
Yep.
And so, with that being said, first off, this interview, I'm going to play a snippet from their interview they did with Simon. And a lot of people, we're going to listen to the interview and then we're going to talk about this, but a lot of people tagged us in it or commented at us saying that it contradicted what we've been saying. And so, after we take a listen to this, to me, and maybe it's just the way that my mind works, this is actually just confirming everything we've said up to this point.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and I'm going to pull up this video. I should have it on shot by shot if you're watching us live, or not live. If you're watching us on YouTube, if you're listening to us and you want to check out the full interview, or if you're watching and want to check out the full interview, head over to JomezPro. And this is just Simon Lizotte on YouTube fame, his unique approach to disc golf and the Dynamic Discs Open. So the specific question we're about to listen to him answer is, how do you balance risky Simon line shots for the fans and playing for the win? So let's take a listen to his answer to this.
The thing in disc golf is, and the way to balance showing off and actually competing and focusing on winning, is that the prize money in disc golf is not that big of a deal for the top 10 guys. Like, we don't play for the prize money. What helps us is the bonuses we get from sponsors, any other sponsorship deals like our bags or our shoes, any equipment we use on the course. Like all those deals are usually a much bigger deal to us than the $1,000 to $3,000 we get if we finish in the top 3 in a tournament. So yeah, my money I've been winning from tournament prize money has actually been like a very, very small piece of my yearly income. So I had to like weigh out, is for me more important to be on the podium, win tournaments, get titles, or is it more important to be the guy that everyone enjoys watching, be the guy that people talk about, be the guy that the camera crews want to film and people like commentating about me, and just stuff like that that always seemed more appealing to me. Like I noticed very early on that winning and the attention of being the winner and having to do like a speech at the end, that kind of stuff, I never liked that. And I always thought I was wrong for not liking that, but I think everyone is different, and just because I'm a professional athlete doesn't mean that I have to do everything I can to win. Like I kind of take the approach for just making the sport look attractive and entertaining and fun to watch.
All right, so
this is gonna be tough.
So first off, I mean, I've always been a big Simon fan. So,
same. I enjoyed watching
and I
Simon.
still am a Simon fan. So nothing that we are about to talk about here is a direct attack on Simon. But I think that this just confirms maybe Trevor has a different opinion than me. I think this confirms a lot of what we've talked about as far as the disc golf pro mentality right now. So let's talk about the money first.
All right.
I think that's the less controversial of these 2 points.
Right.
To me, in no sport do the top players or a true professional like rely on winnings to make their career.
Correct. They're in every sport. I mean, obviously the most comparable is ball golf, the PGA Tour. You know, those top athletes that are signed with like Nike apparel, for example, tens of millions of dollars they're making in a year from that. And they're very much their chances of making that in winnings, you know, not even talking like Simon mentioned, like the bonuses, things like that, that doesn't even matter. Like just straight up winnings, their chances of making that are very low. You know, that's not why they care about winning an event. Yeah,
well, so that's the point that people were saying went against what we've always said of needing to up the top tier payout. Because, and I can kind of see what they were trying to say. They were trying to say that, like, look, even the top players couldn't care less about what they're making. So let's keep it where it is so that 20th place can make a living getting $500 a week or whatever it is.
Yeah.
To me, this is the exact opposite. This is a supporting point to my argument because, like, the money that he's getting for winning and everything is so minimal that the guy doesn't even care about winning. Like, and also, we're not talking about the money being where it's like life-changing for him or life-changing for Paul. The disc golf money, you know, as disc golf money grows, so will their contracts. And like you were saying, their contracts are always going to outgrow what they can make day to day.
Yeah, that's how it is. It's going to be. But the thing is, it's not like I don't want a guy like one of the top pros. Yeah, he's not going to be winning and be like, wow, that just like now I can survive this year. I want him to be able to win though and be like, man, that $15K, like I'm going to feel that in my bank account. Maybe I'll buy a car, not like $2,000. Like, well,
even to me, I'm more thinking of the players that can win one-off events. Like it can, you know, or come in the top 3. They can have a breakout tournament, and that breakout tournament change the course of the rest of their year.
Well, sure, yeah. But for them, that is definitely the case. I'm just saying for the top pros.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying right now, that's not the case. Because right now, sure, the breakout tournament might help you exposure-wise.
Yeah, but
what's the difference between, like, if you're talking day-to-day when rubber meets the road, and you're talking $4,000 to $6,000, you know, yeah, it's $2,000 more. But if we're talking, you know, if you're talking $15,000 or $14,000, whatever, the Ledgestone will bump up from 6 to 14, and then the second place is like 8 or whatever. Now we're talking, you know, sizable increases when you get up there.
Yeah.
So like right now, if you're like, you're struggling, you're on the road, you know, you're going to be looking at other places to invest your time, because investing your time into disc golf and growing as a player doesn't make financial sense unless you're already like Paul or whatever level where you can have these big contracts like Ricky, probably Kevin Jones, Chris Dickerson, those type of players. If you're not one of those players, you know, yes, you're going to be investing yourself because you want to get to that tier, but you're going to have to do something else to make money.
Right.
Whereas in my head, if the payment structure was the way it should be, then a player like, I always go back to him because he's the best example from this year, Colton Montgomery, winning Waco. That his win at Waco should have financially freed him up for a month or two at least to be able to not worry about anything else money-wise.
Yeah.
To where the next month or two, because I just won at Waco, the next month or two at least, if we're talking, 15 grand, that should be able to support you for a month or two, especially when you're considering he got like $3,000 or something for winning Waco.
Right.
If we're talking a lot of money for winning Waco, then now the next month or two, he should be able to just day in, day out focus on only disc golf, because he doesn't have to worry about selling this or selling that or doing a clinic or running an event or whatever. He might need to do it for enjoyment, but he doesn't need to do it for monetary reasons anymore, because he just won a Pro Tour event.
Yeah.
So to me, the fact that you can hear a top player talk about how like the money you're winning in a tournament is like almost laughable, like it means nothing.
Right. For me, like that should be, if I'm the PDGA and the Pro Tour and I'm hearing him say that, like that is a slap to the face. Like,
yeah,
we don't care about your winnings because they are so minuscule. Like they stink. They're
and
not
that's
good.
the thing too, is it's not like we've talked about this so many times. I feel like I'm beating a dead horse, but like at the same time, I feel like it needs to be beaten until it makes sense for everyone. But it's not like we're talking about we need added cash.
No.
The added cash we have, if it was broken down better.
Just redistribution of the purse.
And it's also, we're talking about the Pro Tour.
Yeah.
If you want to pay 45% of the field to a B tier, go for it. At the end of the day, a B tier, I mean, if you redistribute the purse at a B tier, you might be talking $2,000 instead of $1,000. It's not like we're talking 14 grand instead of 6 grand.
Yeah.
The numbers, when there's not a lot of added cash or not a lot of players in the field and the entry fees are lower, it doesn't really make that big of a difference. So we're not talking about that day-to-day stuff. We're talking about the top of the top. The amount, how deep you're paying. If you want to keep it at 40%, then just use the PGA's calculator for how you're paying the top.
Yeah.
So the top person's making a lot of money. So is the second place, third place, fourth place, fifth place, whatever.
Right.
But to me, and I want to get your opinion on this. To me, I think a secondary factor to this is at a Pro Tour event, it's the top tier. We should be paying closer to like 30% of the field.
Yeah.
Or 25% of the field.
Should be significantly less, so that the top guys have a chance to make big money, and it discourages these massive fields we have. I mean, it kind of goes along with the whole Pro Tour model that we've been talking about, like making it the best of the best, making it a lot more cutthroat, and basically this whole interview just like it is a complete contradiction to that entire idea. It kind of goes along with that. Well, it shows
what the state of disc golf is right now.
Right. We were just saying last week on the podcast that there's too many complacent players that have no motivation to want to win, and this is a prime example. And here's my thing. I mean, this interview had me kind of fired up because like it's everything that I don't want for disc golf for it to be taken seriously as a sport. Now, I'll lead off by saying Simon Lizotte is good for disc golf. Simon Lizotte,
he's great for disc golf.
He's helping grow the sport. His media is phenomenal. He's an entertaining player to watch, sure. But there is a lot of people within sports that help sports grow that aren't the top players. They do it like on YouTube or they do media. But like our top players in the sport, you look at like, okay, so let's look at Tiger Woods, for example. Tiger Woods is very popular and helps grow the sport, but he isn't doing anything media-wise, really, other than unless he's paid enough for it. He just does it by being good and winning. My thing is, as Simon Lizotte, like as a top disc golfer, he mentioned, it was like, to me, it sounded like borderline narcissistic the way he phrased it. I'm sure he didn't mean it this way, but like talking about how he just loved being in front of the cameras and love that more than winning. Well, my thing is like his thing he was talking about is like throwing the Simon lines, right? Simon's always, he kind of got popular because he had this huge arm. At the time when he emerged, his arm was better than everybody's pretty much, or at least he was throwing a lot harder than everybody and throwing these crazy lines, and that's great. But now there's a lot more big throwers in the game to where like I don't see that staying that significant down the road. Another thing, if you're Simon and like you want to be remembered as a disc golf athlete in the future, let's go 15 years down the road. When people look up, top players from this era, they're not going to think, well, that guy had a lot of YouTube subscribers. They're going to look who won world titles, who won championships. That is what makes athletes remembered. And, maybe Simon Lizotte doesn't care about any of this. He said not really caring about winning. And, like, if that's really his attitude, if he really just doesn't like if winning, he's just enjoying disc golf and having fun and doing his thing, you know what? Fine. Like I don't have a problem with Simon. I just hope he gets buried. I hope that the sport gets flooded with guys who have a killer mentality, who want to just get really good at sport and not even love winning, but hate losing.
Yeah.
Because I don't think Paul Macbeth loves winning. I think he hates losing. And I think that's the type of guys I want to see flood the sport and bury all the dudes that don't really care about.
Well, see, because here's the thing, too, is like what you said, there's nothing inherently wrong with Simon's mindset of, I want to go on some lead cards so I can throw my big hyzers and,
it's fine.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I just hope that the top level of the sport gets past
because
that.
that's what I'm going to say, is the issue comes in, with me at least, and the telling feature is that if you would ask players to name like their top 5 players in the sport, or even top 10, we'll go top 10. Simon's probably making every top 10 list.
Yeah.
That's where the issue is. You have guys, and it's not just Simon. Simon's the one that was the most open about it here. But if you watch players in general, and you watch the time they're showing up before rounds, what they're doing before a round, what they do after a round, are they partying at night? What during tournaments? Not during Sunday the tournament ended, I'm gonna go party Sunday night and then be on the road Monday. If you look at how players are treating themselves as an athlete, I would legitimately say that at the top of the sport, I think there's more players who care about winning towards the bottom of the sport that are grinding right now and trying to get to the top. I think there's more players with that mindset coming up. But if you look at the top of the sport right now, and this is how it's been ever since I got into disc golf, I would literally say that there's 2, we'll go 3 or 4. Sure. There's 2 100%, Paul and Ricky, that they show up every weekend. They don't give 2 rips about what they do on camera, if they're on camera. If Paul or Ricky wins from third card, they don't care. They won. That's all they care about. You know what I mean? They show up, and their one focus is winning. Eagle is getting there. Eagle in the past, I think, would be a lot more in the Simon realm of, I throw far, I have fun, whatever. Eagle recently, to a certain degree, seems to be taking that next step because we see him a lot more consistently. He still has some stuff that, if he had a killer mindset, it's confusing, it's contradicting. First off, not knowing where you are going to hole 18 on different occasions.
Yeah.
There is not a tournament where, Paul or Ricky is going into 18 not knowing exactly what they need to do to win, because that's all they care about. They don't care about what they shot or what their game plan is. They care about winning. And so I've seen Paul practice only one shot. And I'm sure Ricky does this too, but I've never practiced around with Ricky. But I've seen Paul practice on a certain hole, only one shot all week. But then he gets to the final round, and he knows I'm down 6 or I'm down whatever, and there's only this many holes left. I need to attack this hole.
Right.
I'll see Paul change up his whole game plan because he knows where he stands, and he knows, hey, I have a better chance. It's way riskier, but I need to go for this.
Yeah.
So, and outside of them, you could argue that like a Kevin Jones or Chris Dickerson have that kind of mindset, but who else on tour has that killer mindset? The killer mindset, not a desire to win or a desire to be at the top, but a killer, I'm here to win or nothing else mindset.
I can't seem to find it. I think what's happened in disc golf is there was like this era from like 2012 kind of up until now where maybe like 2012 to 2017 where there was a lot of players who like gained notoriety because disc golf was getting really popular and growing media wise a lot in that era. And these guys, happened to be the better players at that time. And so their names became household names in disc golf. And that has been enough to keep them relevant.
Yeah.
For example, Nate Sexton and Jeremy Colling, they had a little run as top players, but they have stayed relevant because their names are relevant, which has gotten them the commentating thing, which has kept them relevant, which power to you,
Yeah.
We see that happen in pro sports all the time. People move on to media, and that's fine. Stay relevant. But I think that is what's created this attitude of complacency where these guys get to the point where they're still good enough to keep their sponsorships and, float around the top of the leaderboard, and their name is big. So people always know their name. So I think they get a little bit okay with that. I don't know. I don't see this attitude of like guys who I'm looking at that and I'm like, yeah, that guy is about to have an off season where he trains every day and works his butt off. Like
Nico, sorry, I just thought of him.
Yeah, that's
Nico's
a guy
a player.
That's a guy who loves to win.
He has a killer instinct, but he doesn't have the same skill as the top players to a certain, or maybe consistency is a better word.
Well, he's missing an elite forehand.
But I wanted to make sure I brought that up because it just came in my head of, I can't talk about passion for the sport and desire to win and not bring in Nico. What you mean? We can talk about a whole other list of things with Nico, but when you can't, no one can look at Nico's game. This is a complete tangent. No one can look at Nico's game, love him or hate him, it doesn't matter. You can't look at his game and say that guy doesn't care.
Yeah,
you can't do it. You can't watch him play and be like, well, that guy could not care less. That's one thing that I love about Nico is
he does care.
He cares. He cares a lot more than other players do.
Yeah.
And, like you were saying, I think we're at a weird part in disc golf where, like, almost every top pro has a YouTube channel.
Right.
Paul does, which Paul's is ran by Hannah. If it was up to Paul, I don't think Paul would ever create his own content, but he had John Macbeth, his brother, beforehand, and then Hannah now. But then you have Ricky. He has a YouTube channel. Doesn't upload super consistently to it, but just has fun with it.
Yeah.
Kevin might not. Chris doesn't. Yuli does. Simon does. Eagle does. Like, that's a very common thing in disc golf.
Yeah.
And it's not super common in other sports. Is it distracting players?
It's tough to say. I mean, I know disc golf, I think this is another thing too, is what I was mentioning before. A lot of and what kind of Simon was saying, the money in disc golf almost comes more from your personal brand and being able to grow that brand than it does just being good all by itself. Because this is something too in disc golf. There are players in disc golf who are insanely good, and you probably never heard of them. Mm-hmm. Now, these might not be the guys that are necessarily at the top of the game, but there are guys who they are better than, that they are a lot less popular and less known than because they don't work to grow their brand.
Yeah.
And the money can certainly come if you're able to, do it through YouTube or whatever and become a recognizable name. I just wonder, like, when is the wave of players going to come of just guys? I don't know. Like, I was raised in sports in just a different attitude.
Well, I think, this sounds weird. Not weird, but people aren't going to like the words about to come out of my mouth. At the end of the day, okay, people care about money.
Yeah.
Period. So, until the money at the top is a huge separating factor, people aren't going to care. Because if I'm looking at it, like, I know this for a fact. Like, you could go on YouTube and make more money just doing disc golf YouTube videos if you were decent than you could if you went on tour with no sponsor.
Right.
And so, like, if I'm a competitive athlete and I'm good enough, A, and B, I have the killer instinct, I've said it a million times, like, disc golf isn't going to be the sport I choose.
Yeah.
Or even if I am choosing disc golf, I'm going to look and be like, is it really worth sacrificing all of my, like, free time and family time and whatever, hanging out with my friends and doing all the stuff I enjoy? Is it really sacrificing all of that to be at the top of this sport? If it, like, not make that much more money.
Yeah.
The end of the day, money makes the world go round. And I don't want to sound like obviously there's people playing for the love of the game, and that's great. But money is a huge motivator. And so, people always come at me every time I say stuff like this, but it's the truth. If the top prize was for $15,000, people are gonna care more. Like, if I told you to go run 300 laps around the building, or some astronomical number for $1,000, you might be like, it's a $1,000.
I'd do it, but
but then if I told you do it for $10,000, everyone would be like, heck yeah.
Yeah.
And then if I told you you're racing for $10,000, then sure, I'm pushing you over. I'm freaking, as soon as we get behind that building, you're getting rocks thrown at you because it's $10,000. If it's $1,000, I'm like, I'll run.
Surprisingly good metaphor. I didn't really know where I was going.
But you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, it gets, the more you're playing for, the more cutthroat it gets. And so until there's more money on the table, it's not going to get cutthroat. Yeah. So we can't keep, just fingers crossed that this new breed of athletes comes up and they really care about the sport and they're going to, at the end of the day, we can look at a player like Paul. For Paul, all the work he put in was worth it because of how dominant he became.
Yeah.
If Paul really was risking a lot. Paul risked his whole life for disc golf, if you really think about it. because how much time and energy he put into disc golf, like outside of disc golf, there wasn't much else. So if he hadn't become a 4-time world champ in a row, now a 5-time world champ, if he hadn't won 2 USDGCs, if he wasn't able to sign these contracts, then, what would he have? If he would have put all this work in and peaked at a 1030 rated player, then he wouldn't have been able to build a brand. He wouldn't have been able to do all this stuff.
Yeah.
But for Paul, he could see he knew I can do this. B, he could see how much he could push the sport to grow. And I think until there's money on the table where players can look at and be like, oh man, I'm this close to being able to earn 6 figures a year off of earnings, because the sponsorship card's tough. Like Simon was saying, you're always going to earn more on sponsorship money, but the sponsorship money is hard to see when it's not coming.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's hard to look at.
That's true.
It's hard to look at, Discraft. If you told anyone in disc golf 5 years ago that Paul was going to sign a 4-year, $1 million deal with Discraft of all companies 5 years ago. But regardless, if you're going to say that, people would be like, are you kidding me? Like, you're joking, right? Like a disc golf deal, 4 years, $1 million. That's stupid money. You know what I mean? So it's hard to imagine what you can make on sponsorships, because you might hear from friends and whatever.
It definitely fluctuates a lot.
Yeah, and it fluctuates between players. So that's not really guaranteed.
Between the top players and the bottom players, it's big.
But if you can look at, if I win this tournament, I get $15,000.
Right.
That's something that's like, you can set a goal in your mind and know guaranteed this is how much money I can do.
True.
And then with that comes the 4-year, $1 million deal, and Ricky's deal that, I'm sure it's up there. We have no idea. I've never seen it published what his deal's worth, but Innova's not getting away with paying this guy $50,000 a year. Like, he's making a few $100,000 a year probably. Yeah. So obviously that sponsorship money's there, but we don't hear about it. So that can't be a big motivator to draw new eyes and encourage younger freak athletes to dedicate their whole life to the sport.
Yeah. It's got to be the attitude of like, the winning comes first, the sponsorships will follow. Yeah. Instead of like, let me build a brand and get these spots. That almost like I was kind of guilty of this when I was like a young player. Like, you look and you like, I want to be sponsored. Like, that does seem like, people like want to earn a sponsorship and then worry about touring. Well, now I can tour because I'm sponsored. You should worry about winning, and then the sponsorships will follow naturally.
Yeah. Not touring and the sponsorships follow. You should worry about winning.
Yeah.
Win locally, win whatever. Yeah. You know what I mean?
There's just a lot of things that have to happen, and it'll just be trickle down effects that just makes disc golf more competitive.
I would be interested, okay, if the next tournament they played in, or not even the next tournament, if next year, right, the money changed to where you win a tournament and it's guaranteed 5 figures, $10,000 or more every tournament. Yeah. I wonder if Simon's mentality changes. I wonder if Simon goes from, because right now he's making more on YouTube than he would make if he can spend time on YouTube, and he's going to see the return on his investment a lot more there than if he spent time on his game and saw the return of it, because he already has the brand. Yeah. He already has a sponsorship deal. That's not going anywhere because Simon's relevant, period. You know what I mean? But if the return on his investment into his game and this like killer instinct that killer instinct can be developed. You know what I mean? It can be. Ice in your veins can't be, I don't think. Clutchness.
Yeah, but I tell you, it sure can't. I don't have any of it.
But the killer instinct of, it's all about what motivates you and what you want.
Right.
And I feel like, in general in the world, from what I've seen, money is the universal motivator. There's very few people that you can dangle money in front of and then be like, meh. And for the right amount of money, you can dangle it in front of almost anyone and they'll be like, okay, yeah, let's do this thing. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing is if disc golf had restructured their payment thing or payment
but see, I don't know if the money is ever for winnings is ever going to be like, I feel like at the core, players are still going to have to want to win for the sake of winning, not money
to a certain degree.
And that's the thing I think you can't develop. That's what Paul has and Ricky has that can't be developed. I think guys have to want to win because they like to win and they hate to lose. Because
I don't know,
like, you can make the winnings more.
I hate to lose in general because you've played me in YouTube videos, you know that. But if you put something on the line, then you're going to get a whole new competitive me. Because if I'm playing you for, and it's not money.
Yeah, but nothing might.
If I'm playing you to not have to do a punishment, if we have a punishment of whatever the heck we came up, you got to slap me.
Right.
I'm going to care a lot more because there's something on the line.
But even 15K to somebody like Simon, even though it's more of a difference maker, it's still, I don't think, enough when you look at probably what he's making from Discmania and from YouTube and whatever else.
But would it have been enough from 2 years ago before YouTube started?
Yeah, but money has grown in 2 years. It wouldn't have been 15K 2 years ago, probably, or maybe it would have. But
even if it was 10, even if, like, I'm just saying,
I just don't know. And maybe I'm just not selfish, but maybe I'm just like really hoping, and like I just want players who want to win.
Well, the thing is, you
for the sake of winning.
You can't be on tour and not be at least somewhat competitive.
Yeah,
because there's just no way. I refuse to accept that. I refuse to accept that there's players on tour that just absolutely don't care. So to me, the only thing is there's got to be a switch that flips to make these players go from like being competitive in nature to like killers, like Mamba mentality type, you're not going to outwork me type thing. And there's just got to be some type of igniting force. Some players like Paul and even like Ricky, they are their own igniting force. You know what I mean? To where like Paul was ahead of the field 2012 on. 2012 to 2015, like that world stretch, he was putting in work that players now are starting to put in, but now Paul's already put in that work, so now Paul's ahead of them. And Ricky put in work to get up to him to where we saw them battling from, what was it, like 2013 on pretty much?
Yeah.
To where they've been competitive year in, year out for this long. And now we're seeing Eagle. We're seeing more and more players do it because of their own motivation and just lighting something in themselves. I'm just saying, if there was more on the table, if there was something more you're playing for, there's something more you're fighting for.
It would help.
I think it would just help be that, because there's got to be some players that are just right on the edge that are like, yeah, do I really want to get up at 6 today and putt for 2 hours, or do I just want to sleep in and go to the course? I finished 20th last weekend. Was that really that bad?
Yeah.
Versus, all right, well, look, you were three strokes around. 3 strokes around, you got 15 grand. How can I get those 3 strokes? At least, I just feel like that would be way more motivating. If I'm a player in that shoes right now in disc golf, and I don't have to work that hard to be in the top 10, I would care about winning, but I could easily see where you could be complacent.
Right.
But if week in, week out, the money between 10th place and first place was drastically different, and like real drastically different, then that's going to change my attitude, period. Because I'm going to be going into every week knowing not so much look how much you could make, but look how much you're just losing because you're being lazy.
Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, that's just a big, that would be the thing that like it would light my competitive fire even more than it would already be lit. I think that's the thing. We got to figure out how to do that, because to have someone who is like one of the faces of the sport in Simon, and one of the people that so many people look up to, and so many people like, I haven't met someone who just genuinely dislikes Simon. It's hard to, you know what I mean? But to have someone that high up in the sport just come out and blatantly basically say, I don't really care about winning. It's just like, how did this guy get in the top 10?
Because he's just got natural talent.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, like, you're not going to find people in any individual sport, golf, tennis, whatever, that are going out there and they're just like,
those sports
I don't
are
care.
More saturated. I think with time, the field of disc golf as the sport grows will become more saturated, so that players who don't care about winning, they won't be able to just rely on their talent to carry them into that top 10. Because, there's the saying that, hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. That will come into effect when there's way more players that are just playing disc golf. Yeah,
I mean, I think we'll see how this develops over the next few years. We're definitely on the right trajectory. I mean, there's no doubt about that.
I would say so, yeah.
But I've told this to several people, and I've told it to even Brody when he started playing. I'm like, where disc golf is now, if you have any lick of natural talent and you're willing to work your tail off, you'll be in the top 20.
Right.
That is a fact. Like, I've met so many players that I'm watching, and I'm like, if you are legitimately willing to dedicate your life to disc golf for 2 years, you'll be a top 20 player, because you're going to work circles around everyone else in the sport.
Yeah.
And so,
that's right.
And when we say that, always I can hear you typing, okay? I'm not saying that the people don't work. I'm not saying that Simon doesn't practice. I'm saying the amount of work it takes to beat or compete regularly for a win is a whole new level of work that we've only seen from like 3 or 4 guys on tour. And that is purely motivated by a killer instinct and desire to win. So that was probably way longer than you expected us to talk about a 10-minute video. But here we are.
It was just shocking for me.
Well, when I heard it and I saw people tagging us in, and I'm like, first off, how does anyone think that this is anything we disagree with? Or like, how does anyone think that this like goes against what we've been saying? As far as, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
How does this not confirm our ideas?
Right.
And secondly, like, come on, Simon. Like, come on. What are you doing?
Yeah. I don't have a problem with like his personal like narrative. Like, that's fine. You're entitled to do whatever you want to do within the sport. And he is helping grow the sport, which is ultimately what we're all trying to do. But like, on CBS, should we be saying that we don't care about winning?
Hopefully that's not on CBS. Hopefully that was just on Jomez.
Let's hope so.
Which we're going to find out tonight. Well, I don't know if we'll find out if that's on CBS tonight, but
yeah.
You've already watched it, so we're not going to park here too long. We only probably have like 5 or 6 minutes anyways, but I just want to go over what are we expecting here? What is this cover? We haven't seen it obviously because it comes out in 2 hours now.
Right.
You've already seen it, hopefully. So with no real idea other than it's going to be an hour and it's produced by Jomez, what are you expecting to see tonight?
Well, I'm definitely expecting Jomez's A game. I think they had more cameras and more equipment to work with, and I think Jomez's creative ceiling is hit by the fact that they're limited with equipment. I think getting more of that is only going to make them better because I think Jomez, the whole crew is insanely talented. They all come from these crazy backgrounds. So I think we're going to see the best Jomez we've ever seen. And I think we're also going to just be a little bit starstruck seeing CBS logo all over disc golf.
Well, absolutely.
Or, disc golf coverage. Not disc golf, but...
So I'm expecting something different than we've ever seen before.
I hope so.
I am expecting multiple card coverage.
I want it.
I'm expecting it because for some reason I feel like...
It is only an hour long, though.
I feel like they brought out more people than they normally do. B, I think they were teaming up with like Central Coast and others. I could be wrong there. Or at least Central Coast had to hold their coverage. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, I don't know.
Regardless, I don't know what to expect, but I'm kind of hoping for and somewhat expecting it to be like, all right, now we're going to jump over to hole 15 where Ricky Wysocki has this putt for par.
Right.
And then we putt out. What are you expecting? So we know the commentators are Big Germ and Nate Sexton.
Yeah.
And do you expect their tone to change at all being on CBS Sports?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely will, and most of that could just be attributed to the fact that they know they're on CBS, so they're going to be nervous and trying to be extra professional. So probably the mood will be less jokey, type of thing. It'll be less humorous and more, serious, and I think they'll also hopefully be, focused on trying to make disc golf look good. I think they're capable of it. I don't think that I think they're decent at what they do. I really like Sexton, and Jerem's gotten better.
Yeah.
I think he's not bad either. So I think they're capable of it. I'm very nervous because commentary in disc golf's past, there's been some cringy, bad commentary where the point where I'm muting it or don't even want to listen to it at all. So I'm very nervous. That's the thing. That is the make or break for me because people will maybe flip on me like, what is this disc golf thing? And they could flip right off if they don't like the commentators.
Mm-hmm.
It's a high pressure job. I wouldn't want it.
I'm glad I don't have it.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for it. I think they're going to be more professional. I think that they know the weight of this because, we won't know the viewership. And the only reason I can think of that CBS Sports is holding these viewership numbers back is if they don't want other networks to see it. If they want...
Exactly.
So to
they're
me...
trying to hold all the cards.
To me, that looks like there is potential here for ongoing type of a contract.
Well, they sure think so.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They've got to.
Yeah.
And, whether it's ESPN or what's another Fox Sports 1 or whatever, whether it's someone else is, in someone's ear saying, hey, we want disc golf coverage or not, or if it's just CBS being like, we might have just uncovered a gold mine here.
Right.
For some reason, they have said, or maybe that's just industry standard, and since we've never been in it, I didn't know. But for some reason, I feel like you normally find viewership data.
Yeah, I'm not
For some reason, they have explicitly said we're not releasing that. So, what though are you expecting? Are we hitting six figure concurrent viewers? Are we hitting 100,000 plus concurrent viewers?
I think so.
We're hitting 200.
I would say probably maxes out around 180,000.
Okay.
That's my ballpark guess, but
I have no idea where to
I don't
guess.
know where to expect.
I don't even know what CBS Sports normally gets, so I'm not even.
Yeah, because that's the
I don't
thing
even know
don't
how many people have CBS Sports.
I don't know.
But I'm hoping it is an absolute home run because
Could be big.
it could be very big for the future of disc golf, and I think that this is a great. I wish they would have picked it up sooner because this was a great year to have disc golf coverage because there's been nothing going on.
Right.
And it looks like in the fall there's going to be nothing going on. So hopefully they can cover, I don't know if USDGC, I mean, I know that's not a pro tour, so I don't know if, I know that Dynamic worked this out, so I don't know if Innova could work it out with them, but it would be great to see some of the remaining tournaments make it on there, like the Pro Tour finale, USDGC, GMC, and MVP. I feel like we would have heard of if they were getting picked up because they're coming up very soon, but it would be great if some of these other tournaments remaining could get picked up. Or even, I mean, since it's post-produced, even the idea that maybe they could rerun old tournaments. Because, I mean, I turned the TV on the other day and I saw a freaking 2016 MLS All-Star game was on.
Yeah, I mean, that stuff's happening right now, especially.
Yeah, so, hopefully this could be hopefully this is a huge success. Hopefully it was, I guess, because you're listening to this on Thursday at least. Hopefully it was a huge success. And, if you're listening to this and you didn't watch it, download a YouTube TV trial and watch it tonight, tomorrow night, Saturday night. Whenever you're listening to this, it goes through Saturday. There's 4 rounds. YouTube TV, you can get a free trial of it. Download that thing. Watch it on CBS Sports. Don't forget to cancel the YouTube TV trial after. But yeah, it's definitely some exciting things going on in the disc golf world.
Very.
So I think that's going to wrap it up. As of when you're listening to this, our flight shirts will be dropping tomorrow. So Friday, the 28th. We'll have a post about it, letting you know kind of the official drop times and stuff like that. But people seem to be pretty excited about this drop. I really like the shirts. I love how they turned out. If you aren't sure what they are, it's the Supreme Style Flight Tee is what I'm calling it. You can put the wordplay together there.
Yeah.
Supreme Flight. I was pretty proud of the idea, but it was also very low hanging fruit. So
yeah,
it was pretty simple.
It's a cool shirt.
It's a cool shirt. I think people will like it. People have liked it when we wore it in videos. But yeah, those will be dropping this Friday. I don't expect them to sell out, or I don't think you need to be on there just ready to go.
We'll
but
see.
You never know.
We'll see.
You never know. So if you want one, we'll have the exact time posted on our Instagram, and it wouldn't hurt to be there at that time to make sure you get one. But if you are working at the time we drop it or something like that, you should still be able to pick one up on Saturday.
Yeah.
We have a decent amount of them, so. That's going to wrap it up for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening or watching, depending on where you're consuming this content. And as always, we will talk to you next week.